and welcome to Raw. I'm Matt.
And I'm Alex, and this little lady here is Melindy the serval cat.
And we'll be seeing a lot more of her and her more dangerous cousins throughout the series.
But first, here's what else is to come on today's Animal Pack programme.
I get into a peanut eating competition with this cheeky little fellow, though I fear he may make a monkey out of me.
And a pack of barking mad pups are going to get a new stepdad. But will the grumpy mutt be welcomed with wagging tails?
And we feed the hungriest animals in the whole park.
Howlett's and Portland Wild Animal Parks are already home to many happy couples. But recently, it seems that Cupid has turned his attentions to the gorilla house. Could there be an adolescent crush in the air? And the young love hasn't gone unnoticed by keeper Maria Whitehouse.
Well, we've got a young female gorilla called Miranda, and she's very, very timid. And we've got a bit of a cocky young male called Ibiki, who's basically taken her under his wing. And I think there's a bit of love going on there, because I caught them holding hands and hugging.
The young gorillas are just 3 years old and won't reach sexual maturity for another 3 to 8 years. Their behaviour now is part of learning how to become a big gorilla and comes from mimicking the adults.
I've seen this sort of thing happen before, and they start off, we're just friends and buddying up. Definitely more than that, absolutely definite.
These two have been inseparable ever since their eyes met across the crowded enclosure.
They just look straight into each other's eyes, and you can see Miranda's melting by Ibiki, because he's a stunning gorilla. He's quite suave, and it's really, really sweet to see them together, because she's not the prettiest gorilla in the group. She's got big nostrils. Don't tell her I said that. But she needs somebody to show her the ropes and the swings.
Moanda and Ibeki's relationship may be blossoming, but could things be about to end in tears? Recently, another gorilla in the group has been vying for Moanda's affections.
Fubu, he's gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous, got beautiful big eyes, nice body, lacking a bit of hair, but he's lovely. I think he's got an eye for Miranda, and I think he's definitely trying to crack onto her. We're not sure what's going to happen, really. It's turned into a bit of a love triangle. So she's got the choice of both of them, whether she takes Fubu or not. We just have to wait and see. But if she does, Ibiki will be absolutely devastated.
And Fubu is certainly pulling out all the tricks to get himself noticed.
Fubu is very good on the ropes, and he's been doing all sorts of somersaults and swings on the ropes and really trying to show off in front of her. And he's a lot more agile than Ibiki, definitely. And I think Miranda really likes that. I think she's definitely swaying towards Fubu. If he carries on the way he does on those ropes, he's won her over, definitely, absolutely won her over.
With two handsome young gorillas fighting over her, who will Moanda plump for? The suave and sophisticated Ibeki, or the balding but lively Fubu?
But if I had the choice, I think I'd go for Fubu. Those eyes, they're just milk material. It's like a soap. You know, it could change any day, it could change. You could definitely write a book on it, absolutely. I think I might write a love story to do with them, because there's so much to talk about.
Although they have different mothers, these three gorillas all share the same father, the silverback Kifu. So before they become sexually mature, the two male gorillas will have to leave the group and lead a new family. But until then, we'll be keeping tabs on the romances and see which of these lads Moanda chooses.
Ah, young love.
Now it's time for man versus monkey in an all-out battle to see who's got the biggest gob. I think this is a job for Matt.
I'm just outside the Debraza section with head of primates, Simon Jeffrey, and we're going to attempt, with Bungle in here, the Monkey Peanut Challenge. Simon, what's the idea?
Well, Debraza monkeys have pouches in their cheeks, so we're going to see how many peanuts you can actually force into them.
I see. I hear that he holds some kind of park record.
Well, it's about 22 peanuts.
22, was that inside or outside the shell?
Outside the shell.
No way! 22? Right, this I've got to see. Go on, lead the way. Come on. Come and get your peanuts, come on. Shall I just pass them to him?
Yeah, as soon as he comes, just hand them one at a time.
Here you go.
Here you go.
Yeah, well, you want it. He's stuffing them in there.
3.
And they're going in a sort of pouch, are they?
Yep, go. 5.
Right, you keep going.
6,
7. And what do they... There
8,
you go.
keep going. 9.
Oh, sorry,
Gotta
drop
move
that one.
faster. 10.
You can put them in his pouch quicker than I can pass them. Come on. There you go, here. And when he puts them in his pouch, is he putting them... Will he just eat them from in there, or will he bring them out again, or how will it work? Come on, you're supposed to be storing them, not eating them. Still on 10, still on 10. Yeah, so when he puts them in there, will he bring them back out again to his
Yeah, he pushes them back out, and then they can eat them in their own time. He's actually taking them out of the shells at the moment and putting them into his cheek pouches.
I see,
He's not
you're
actually eating them
cheating. And do all monkeys do that?
Not all monkeys, no. A lot of old world monkeys do, but not all monkeys.
Oh, that's interesting. Old world, what does that mean?
They're the ones
exactly?
that come from Asia and Africa.
Uh-huh. And are there, what's the opposite? Are there New World monkeys?
Yes, there are New World monkeys, and they all come from South America.
Oh, that's fascinating. Come on, you. I've handed him about 20, but you're cheating.
He is cheating. He's taken them out of the shell for once.
So where exactly are the pouches? I can't actually see them swelling
They're
up.
actually literally here on the side of his faces, literally where our cheeks are pretty much, but they're further
right.
back.
Sort of just above his shoulders almost.
Yeah.
And if he really fills them up, can you see them bulging out?
Yeah, I mean, you can just starting to see it actually now that his cheeks are actually getting slightly
Round
more
there,
bulgy
yep.
at the sides. And then once we actually finish giving him peanuts, and then you can actually see him pushing them back out to actually eat them in his own sort of time.
Fantastic. And what sort of environment do they live in?
Well, they live in jungle. They're well known for sort of living in the trees. Oh, I think he's had his fill. He's got those last 4 in there.
He's great, isn't he? Come on, you. Are you going to go away and hide and eat them now? Is that what he'll do? Will he just sort of sit up there and take them out and
Yeah,
munch
no,
away
I mean,
on
this is
them?
what they would do in the wild. They would go down to the floor, pick up all the food off the floor, and because it's an area where there might be predators, they want to stuff as much as they can in their face and then disappear back up into the trees to eat it at their own leisure.
Fantastic. But you know what? 22's the record. I reckon I've got a chance of beating that. What do you reckon?
Oh, I don't think I've got any chance.
Really?
No.
I'm going to give it a go. Why don't we leave Bungle up there to finish his nuts and we'll go outside and limber up. OK, Simon, I'll warm up. You count, all right?
Yep.
So it's 22 I'm going for?
22's a record.
OK. I'm ready. Here you go.
3, 2, 1, go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10. Oh, that's rubbish. That's really bad.
At Port Lim, things are doggone crazy. These are African hunting dogs and they're out of control. These doggy delinquents are actually one of the tightest family units in nature and one of the few mammals that care for their old and sick. Although they are among the most effective hunters in the world, they are also amongst the most endangered. Thankfully, parks like these are breeding these scarce dogs to try and save them from extinction. In the park, the young pups, teenagers in human terms, are causing mayhem. Their dad, alpha male Sengu, sadly died just before they were born, leaving mother 3-year-old Tunis a struggling single mum. Keeper Pete Thompson is extremely worried about the descent into canine chaos.
She's bringing the pups up on her own. She's not coping that brilliantly with them, and she's getting quite stressed with them a lot. They're running circles around her at the moment. In the wild, it wouldn't matter too much because the packs are normally big enough. If the dominant male got injured, one of the others would take over. Here, they were just the pair, so there's no dominant male in here for them, so the pups are just pretty much getting away with what they like. So they're kind of out of control a bit. The whole hierarchy's upset, really. So there'll be inbreeding, there'll be lots of problems, lots of injuries.
This is a big issue. They might look a bit like cute pet pups, but don't underestimate the damage these dogs could do to each other or to Pete. Every 3 days they get fed 8 kilos of meat. That's the equivalent of an antelope a week. It's a very dangerous time to be in the enclosure.
You have to be quite confident in with all the dogs. They pick up on fear quite quickly, and they'll go for you if they think you're frightened of them.
In the wild, African hunting dogs are a very endangered species and one of the most ruthless killers in the animal kingdom, hunting in packs of up to 60. They've got incredible stamina, running over long distances up to 20 miles without stopping. And once they catch the unlucky prey, the dogs eat it alive. With one of the most powerful bites on the planet, they can rip a wildebeest apart in seconds. If the youngsters here get any more out of hand, they may have to be split up before they inflict serious injury or even kill each other. But that's a last resort. Pete wants to try a different plan first.
We have another male that we're going to try and bring in and introduce to the pups, hopefully within the next couple of weeks. He'll work with the female, I hope, and the puppies will start behaving a lot more.
And there's another even more important reason why Tunis needs a new mate. Without one, there'll be no more breeding. And for such an endangered species, that would be a serious blow. The dog they're going to bring over is a 6-year-old male from Howlett's, Mzungu. Head of carnivores Jim Vassy has one word to describe him.
In a nutshell, a nutter. Absolutely, mental. But that's his personality. Obviously, it can go two ways. Obviously, he'll accept the pups and the female, or the female won't accept him. So there is an element of risk.
He may be ferocious, but the future of the pack rests with Mzungu. We'll be back when he meets Tunis and the pups for the first time.
What is the best year for a kangaroo? A leap year.
What do you get if you cross a vampire bat and a snowman? Frostbite!
What do you give a pig with a rash? Ointment.
If you thought a pack of hunting dogs are a bit of a handful, take a look at the size of Duke. He's 5 meters long. Now, if a Burmese python invites you round for dinner, make sure it's not you that's the dish of the day. Because as they grow to nearly the length of a London bus, they really do get big enough to gobble you up.
It's lunchtime in the reptile house, and unfortunately, I've been given the job of delivering lunch. Ben, what's the plan?
You're going to help me out on this.
Okay.
I'm going to give you a rat and these tongs.
Okay.
And you're going to...
And it's a dead
feed
rat?
him. Yes.
What do I need this for?
I'll take that off you. It's just to keep him off you, just in case he strikes for you.
Just in case he goes. OK, right.
OK.
If
you grab the tongs...
Right. He's sort of looking like he's ready for it.
Yeah, he's coiled up ready. He knows what's going to happen. Have you got it?
OK, I think so, yeah.
Right, now just hang that in front of his face. He'll move with great speed, so...
And do I let go when he grabs it?
Yeah.
Is he coming?
Lift it up slightly. So
is he coming for me?
You're all right.
Am I all right?
Yeah.
This is a bit scary. It looks like he's having a problem finding it.
Yeah. What's your more?
Decided I might just get out of here.
Be ready to look away, because this gets gross.
There we go.
He's got it. Wow, so he was pretty quick there, Ben. How is he now eating that rat? It's quite a big animal, and he seems to be sort of swallowing it whole.
Yeah, they can dislocate their jaws, so the mouths can open very wide. I mean, they'll be able to swallow something,
Yeah.
you know, size of a small child.
Really? Has that ever happened here?
Luckily not, no. I mean, in the wild, they would take small antelopes, things like that.
As big as that?
Yeah.
Wow. So in the wild, these animals obviously would be live. We're giving him a dead rat. How does he actually kill them?
Basically, he'll lay there in the leaves, coiled up, sort of waiting to ambush something as it walks past. When something comes along, he'll strike out like he did then,
Yeah.
bite it, then quickly coil it, so he's ready to crush it. He'll crush it, so it breaks all the bones in the body, and he's able to swallow it down whole then.
And so how often do you feed him here?
We feed him once every 2 weeks.
Once every 2 weeks?
Yeah.
And is that just sort of a similar pattern to how he would feed in the wild then?
Yeah, in the wild he'd probably get bigger animals, so he would probably last a lot longer without food. He could last months without food, and to lay there, digest it, then wait for the next morsel to walk past.
He's got amazing patterns on his skin. How does that help him in the wild?
Basically for the ambushing, he'll camouflage himself into the leaves and stuff, so nothing will be able to see him. He'll just lay there quietly. Obviously he won't be seen, and he'll strike out when the moment's right.
It looks like he's sort of taking a final swallow with the rat's tail poking out.
Yeah, he's
What's
nearly...
he doing now?
He's, just finishing it off now, bringing it down his body. You can see it curling up. He's just sort of pushing it down his body a little bit more. And now he's just putting his jaws back in where he opened his mouth so wide.
And then what, that rat just passes the length of his body?
Yeah. Yeah, and he'll digest it slowly. Right, I think we put...
Ben, that was quite an experience. I'm thinking that the safest place for me is out here.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
That's okay.
Back at Port Lim, the keepers are unloading Mzungu, the ferocious 6-year-old male African hunting dog from Howlett's, who's about to be introduced to Tunis and her 6 teenage tearaways. Their dad died just before they were born, and so single mum Tunis desperately needs a new top dog to help bring her pups to heel. Head of section at Port Lim, Adrian Harland, is anxious about how it will go.
We don't know exactly what's going to happen here. We've never tried anything like this before, and I haven't read of anybody else that has tried to integrate a strange male in with a female and her pups. But we have to get these 2 dogs to go together, otherwise it'll ruin our future breeding here.
There's no choice but to try, but the dog's keeper, Pete Thompson, knows it's risky.
They could end up just fighting, one of them getting seriously injured. And then with puppies, if they start to attack him, he may turn around and kill some of them.
With so much at stake, the keepers are staggering the introductions. It's safer to keep the pups separate to start with and just get the 2 adults together. But before he's let out, Mzungu needs a vaccination, a precaution against any infection he might pick up from his new pack. It's too dangerous for the vet to put her hand in his cage, so she's using a blowpipe. First, he's let out into his own enclosure. Tension is high as Mzungu comes through to meet Tunis for the very first time.
And they've met. They're making little twittering noises at each other. She's bowed down to him. Seems all right so far. The pups' tails are going up, which means they're taking on a kind of aggressive role, dominant role. The mother is looking at the male's face in a submissive way, and now she's beginning to follow him. So this is quite a good result for us so far.
It looks like Mum has fallen for Mzungu's macho charms, but all hell could break loose when he meets the teenage tearaways. We'll be back to see what happens next.
It can jump the length of a car. Its enormous fangs kill its prey in an instant. And up a tree, it's as agile as a monkey. The clouded leopard is a serious cat. One of the rarest cats in the world, clouded leopards get their name from the cloud-shaped markings on their coats. But very little is known about these elusive tree-dwelling animals. Keeper Ben Warren doesn't just look after the snakes. He has the incredible privilege of looking after these splendid cats.
Cloud leopards are very beautiful. They've got stunning markings and very long tails, absolutely beautiful cats, and they're very rare. So, you know, it's a pleasure to work with them, really.
Found in China and Southeast Asia, clouded leopards are an endangered species, with as few as 10,000 left in the world. They are incredibly elusive, but this rare footage shows just how lethal they can be. Ben and his team look after a dozen clouded leopards, but even in captivity, they are still wild animals.
They're hiding away at the moment. They tend to wait until I've walked out the enclosure and sort of gone out of sight before they come down and grab their food and start eating.
In the wild, clouded leopards are hunted for their fur, but surviving in captivity can also be tough, as they are prone to killing each other. Over the years, Ben and his colleagues have been incredibly successful at breeding these beautiful big cats.
The secret is to leave them alone, I think. Give them lots of space, don't stress them out, and keep them happy.
Being brilliant climbers, clouded leopards usually spend their time at the top of their enclosure. So Ben needs to be as agile as his cats in order to get a proper look at them. But it's worth it.
So they're both walking around above my head now. You can see them quite clearly.
Relative to its size, the clouded leopard has longer canine teeth than any other cat on the planet. In fact, they are often nicknamed modern-day saber-tooths. But Ben trusts his cats not to use them.
I mean, they hit at you a little bit, but they never go for you, so they can't be that bothered by you. It's, you know, just a little warning.
Over the years, Ben has built up such a good relationship that he can even talk to the animals.
Clouded leopards have a greeting noise. We call it chuffing. It sort of sounds like... We try and make as close a sound up as possible to this noise, just to say hello when we come into the enclosure, and hopefully it calms them down a little bit and makes us look like a friend as such. In the wild, you probably wouldn't see them due to their camouflage up in the trees. It's absolutely amazing being this close. You know, I mean, look at them, they are absolutely beautiful.
Elephants like things to be in order, and so they have a boss of their herd. This dominant female elephant is known as the matriarch. We've popped down to come and see them.
I've come down to the yard with keeper Liz Rickard, who looks after the biggest animals in the park, the elephants. Now, Liz, what are we going to do with all this hay?
Well, now we're going to feed them.
OK.
Obviously, this is only a small sample.
How much would one elephant eat in a day?
One elephant, well, here they probably eat about 50 to 60 kilos a day.
As much as that?
That's like one of you or me,
yeah,
really.
Sort of like almost our weight in hay in one day. That's
exactly.
incredible.
Obviously, in the wild, they'd eat a lot more because they're wandering around, browsing around a lot more, so they get through a lot more food. They're obviously a lot more active than they are within the enclosure. So we get triple the amount.
And what we're kind of spreading it out, aren't we, Liz? Why are we doing that?
We are. Well, a herd of elephants is made up of a dominance hierarchy. So obviously you've got to feed the more dominant ones first.
Right.
And then obviously feed the others from then on, so they all get a fair amount of food.
And in this herd, who's the sort of boss here, and how does the dominancy work?
Normally the boss would be the matriarch, but we've actually got Jums, our adult bull, who's at the top. Normally he'd be off in his little bachelor group of males. So he'd be the top, and then we'd have our matriarch, which is Massa, who is over there somewhere.
Okay. And he's one of the babies. Now, who's this?
This is Jara with her mum Tammy.
And can we feed her?
You
by
can
hand?
feed her.
Oh,
She might
great.
come and say hello.
Hello, Jara.
See, she's stretching out her trunk to reach you.
That trunk is amazing, isn't it? Look, it's quite slightly snotty at the end.
It is amazing. Obviously, they do a lot with their trunk. Feed with their trunk, drink with their trunk, smell, vocal communication. So. Very useful tool.
It seems very agile. I mean, is it made up? There's no bone in that trunk, is there? It's just muscle.
No, there's no bone within the trunk. Thousands of muscles, approximately sort of 50,000 muscles within their trunk.
As many as that, 50,000
which they have
muscles.
great control over.
She seems to be enjoying
She's
that.
lovely. Obviously, when she was first born, she didn't have a great lot of control over her trunk, but she's getting very clever now.
Her trunk feels quite interesting. I thought it would be sort of really soft, like a horse's nose, but it's actually quite coarse, the hair on the nose.
It is quite coarse. Well, they're covered in a very fine layer of hair. They're kind of like almost like a brush.
Yeah.
Very thin hair all over their body.
And Liz, what kind of elephants are these?
These are African elephants. You can tell they're African elephants because they've got much bigger ears than Asian elephants, and they're also a lot bigger than Asian elephants would be.
And obviously we're behind bars as we're feeding them. Is that necessary?
As friendly, as they are, as they're looking, we've got to remember they're wild animals at the end of the day. And even, they could hurt you accidentally because they are so heavy. I mean, Jara's sort of 300 kilos plus.
Is she really?
So, I mean, even if she, accidentally caught you, you'd be in a bit of trouble, really.
The other thing I noticed is they've got really long eyelashes.
They have. Obviously, the environment that they live in is very dusty in the wild, so they have to protect their eyes, have very long eyelashes.
Well, Liz, thank you so much.
You're
I think
welcome.
that should do them until tomorrow. Thanks very much for letting us help you.
I've come into the heart of the wolf enclosure to help head keeper Jim Vassey because this tree came down last night in some high winds and we've got to get it out of here. Jim, I can't see the wolves anywhere, but should I be worried?
Not particularly worried, but obviously always look over your shoulder because as we're in here, they'll be lurking in the bushes somewhere watching us, but we won't see them. But they'll always have an eye on us.
And is that how they would hunt their prey in the wild? Would they creep up on them?
Well, what they tend to do is, they'll come across the caribou in the tundra areas of Canada, and what they do then is they'll select one animal, either old or a youngster, and then they will just chase it down. And then they will keep going until that animal becomes so exhausted, it just stops. And then the whole pack, 30 of them, will just jump on it.
When you say they'll just keep going, what sort of distances would they cover?
You're looking at maybe 30, 40 kilometres, and they'll just keep running and chasing them. And it's to tire them out. But anyway, if we get on with this, you grab that end of that tree and I'll pull.
Oh yeah, I'll take the heavy end, Jim. Don't worry about that.
Yeah.
There's some. What's that? Is that from the wolves?
Yeah, this is their winter coat. Obviously, we are now in summer, so they need to shed their winter coat.
I noticed, Jim, that it is very soft and thick. Well, why does it need to be quite so thick?
Well, yeah, and the reason it's thick is because obviously up in the Canadian tundra, it gets so cold, so that you need a really thick coat.
And tundra, describe tundra, what does that
tundra,
mean?
It refers to a layer of soil, well, just under the soil actually, which is permanently frozen all year round.
Really?
So it never defrosts.
I noticed that in here they've dug themselves a big den. Would they be able to actually dig down into the snow and the ice to create themselves a home out in Canada?
Yeah, they do. They will dig down and obviously dig a den, and then obviously because you've got several family members in one little den, obviously the body heat is what keeps them warm.
Excellent.
But obviously when they come out to hunt, they do need the thicker coat to keep warm.
Keep them warm, exactly. Well,
I'm going to get on and help Jim get the rest of these branches out of here, but don't you go anywhere because we've still got loads to come on today's show.
It's time to see how the pups welcome their new paw.
I get the best job in the whole park, picking up lion poo.
And we test the keeper's knowledge on some hairy heifers.
African hunting dog Tunis has been having real trouble with her unruly pack of teenage pups. 3 girls and 3 very boisterous boys, but they may have met their match. Mzungu, a ferocious alpha male dog, has been transferred from Howlett's to help Mum keep her rowdy rabble in line and to ensure this pack of endangered wild dogs goes on for generations. Mum and Mzungu have been getting on very well in their own enclosure, but now it's time for her pups to meet their new stepdad. Head of section Adrian knows it's a very risky business and something that's never been attempted before.
And they're not what you see in a pet shop as a puppy. These are half-sized dogs, so he may see that as more competition. If he'll see them as competition and they'll have to have a little fight or a show of dominance to show who is the top-ranking dog amongst them. I'm hoping that they're still small enough that he'll see them as puppies.
As a dominant male, it's vital Mzungu shows the pups who's boss, but there's also a chance he could attack and even kill them. The keeper's prepared to release the pups.
You ready, Aid?
Yep. There are 6 of them and they all bundle about, so we've no idea how many of them are going to charge out of that shut-off in one go, but we'll try and keep the numbers down so that there's not too much excitement all at once. And then we'll just see what happens. And hopefully they'll roll over and be submissive towards him and everything will be fine. Hopefully. Oh yes, there goes one.
Drop it, drop it. 3, 4. You got 4 in there, Aid.
Well, we have rather more than we'd hoped for come out in a big bundle, and they're rolling over and they're looking at his face, which is good to start with. They are quite excited. The tails are wagging and they're going up a bit.
An upright tail is a sign of aggression. Far from being intimidated by Mzungu, the pack of pups are showing signs of turning on him.
I don't know if they're defensive over their mother. This twittering sound, they're all excited. It's the kind of noise you get when they greet each other in the morning first thing, when in the wild dogs would be getting ready to go out hunting. Just hope that it stops at this, and he's starting to run, which isn't good.
Suddenly it's serious. The pups are hunting down their stepdad as prey. These animals have incredible stamina, running for up to 4 hours on end, and in the wild they don't stop until they've made a kill, eating their quarry alive as soon as they catch it. Adrian runs to the rescue.
It's enough.
Luckily, the frenzied pups pull back before they can do any serious damage.
That was too many.
I know.
Mzungu is locked away for his own safety. Looks like his bark was much worse than his bite. He's just a pussycat after all.
Maybe this is something a bit like sometimes in human families. They think they're fine as a family without having a new stepdad. I don't think they realise that she quite liked the other male.
It's the 3 boys who led the rebellion to see off their new stepdad, but the keepers can't let the pups win.
They all seem very pleased with themselves. Maybe we'll have to take Patch and his mates out and leave the girls in.
It's vital Tunis is given the chance to stay with new mate Mzungu, or there'll be no breeding. The keepers have tried everything they can. The only thing left may be to split up the family.
So we're very keen to keep the female pups in with their mum if we can. We may have to throw those hooligan young sons out.
The future of the pack is uncertain. We'll be back later to find out what happens.
The keepers here live day in and day out with their beastly best friends, and they soon get to know everything about the creatures they keep. So we've come to check out Europe's heaviest land mammal and the lucky chap who looks after them. What's more, we're armed to the teeth with tricky questions to try and crack this egghead.
We're at the bison enclosure, about to ask keeper Joel Bunce everything you ever wanted to know about these fantastic animals. OK, who's first? Isabel.
Do they ever get hot?
They do get hot, especially in the summer. Over the winter they have a very thick winter coat, and in the summer they need to rub it off. So they go to all the trees and they scratch off all the old fur, old thick fur, and they're left with a nice, sleek, cooler coat.
What should you do if a bison starts chasing you?
Me personally, I'd run as fast as I could to somewhere safe. You can never quite tell what they're going to do. They can be quite aggressive sometimes, particularly as they get older. So probably the safest thing to do is to find a tree to climb in or a fence to get over and get out of the way.
Where do they come from?
Well, they used to come from a lot of places, but they're almost extinct in the wild. They only come from one forest now in Poland, but they used to be widespread through Poland, Russia particularly, in huge numbers. But during the First World War, many of them were killed for food and for sport. And by 1919, they were classified as extinct, save for a handful of bison which were put in captivity, and that's where all these come from now originally, just from a handful of bison.
That's amazing. So the breeding programme here, is it a really successful one?
Yes, we've bred quite a few bison in the past, and they've moved on to other collections. So, yeah, we've done our bit for the bison.
Do they ever try to jump over fences?
They don't normally try and jump the fences, but if something scares them, then they might do, and they can jump up to 8 feet high, which is taller than me.
As high as that? That's amazing.
Yeah.
But luckily for us, they're quite occupied eating just there, so we don't need to worry about that, do we, John?
No, not at all.
Surely there's something this boffin doesn't know about bison. We'll come back and test him some more later on.
Keeper Adrian not only looks after some mean dogs, he also takes care of the big cats. Today I'm inside the Barbary lion enclosure doing one of my least favourite jobs in the whole world, collecting poo. This is, oh, that's disgusting. This is big cat keeper Adrian Harland, who has to do this, well, I don't know, every day? How often do you do this, Adrian?
We do this most of the day, actually.
It's most of the day.
It's our favourite job. But today, we're not just picking it up. You're issued with the protective gloves there because today we're doing some samples. And instead of putting it all into the big bin, I'd like you to take a little piece out of a couple of bits of poo around here so that we can send it off to get it sampled for worms.
Yes, I knew that there was something up when they gave me the rubber gloves and
so
the
if
rake.
you want to have a look at
the
that
director
one.
didn't say, oh, sorry, I've got another one there. The director didn't tell me I was going to have to handle it. So, it has got a handy scoop. Maybe I can do it
Yeah, it's
without
got a little
some...
spade inside it.
But it's rock hard, Adrian. So I just pick it up and break it. I have got rubber gloves on. It's, wow, look, it's full of hair. Is that from them licking themselves, or...?
Some of it's from licking themselves and some of it is from their food because we feed out our meat here still with the skin on. So that it gives them lots of essential vitamins and things are in the skin, and it also gives them something to do. Yeah. You know, it's a natural behaviour for them to lick at their food.
Is that enough, do you think, for your
Oh, that'll be
sample?
plenty for my first sample.
And where's this going to be going?
This goes off to a lab. We look at the poo for a number of reasons when we're going round. One of the things that it makes it nice and tidy, and I guess people with dogs at home also know that they've got to clear up after their dogs. But the other reasons that we do it is that, unlike your dog at home or your cat at home, our cats are still quite wild, and when they get sick, they don't like to show it. No wild animal likes to show that it's sick because then it automatically is picked out as the weakest member of the group or something and it'll get picked on. So they try and hide any diseases. And if they've got a stomach upset, you see, or something like that, the poo doesn't lie. So if we look at the poo, we can see if they've got diarrhoea or something before the animal will actually show that it's not feeling well.
Right.
So that's one of the reasons why we do it. The other reason is for the worms and parasites that they might get.
Okay.
And again, that's the same as for domestic dogs and cats. You should always worm your animals regularly.
Yeah.
We send this off to a laboratory and they'll look at it. Sometimes we actually see worms in the poo, but mostly they're microscopic. They're just little eggs and things.
Yes, yeah.
So we have to send it off to a laboratory for them to have a look at it and let us know the results.
Right, so I've got a few more bits to dig up, haven't I, Adrian?
Yeah, and we need to take some samples because we've got
I see.
a pride here, a family of 5 lions.
Keep your eyes
and we
peeled
don't
for
know
poo.
who goes where. So,
I see, yeah, so you've got to take multiple samples.
Yeah, so that we can get a representation of all the animals in here. There should be some down here, I think.
Do I add it to the same
Yes,
sample
all
pot?
in the same pot.
Delightful, delightful. This one looks a bit fresher than the last one.
Yeah.
Now, all these poos seem to be around the edge. Is there any particular reason for that?
Yeah. Lions, they like to mark out their territories. Now, they do it in a number of ways. One of them is calling, one of them is scratching on logs.
Yeah.
But because, you know, like they can't handle an aerosol can or something like that and spray their tag over something, what they do is they either scent with urine or they deposit their faeces all along the edge of the enclosure, and that marks it out. There's usually quite a lot in this corner because this backs onto another lion enclosure down below us.
Right.
So we should find a couple of bits down here.
Marking your territory. I've got you another sample there. It was much smellier and wetter than the last one.
Good.
I don't know if that's a sign of any parasites, but it's certainly not the nicest job I've ever had to do. Yeah, hang on. Right, I'll tell you what, Adrian. As much as I love coming down here to see you and the cats, maybe next time it's poo duty, you could give Alex a call.
Well, if the money's good, we'll do that.
Come on, I'll help you out with the rest of
OK.
What do you get if you sit under a cow? A pat on the head. Where do horses go when they're ill? A hospital. What do you call 2 spiders that had just got married? A newlywed.
And so it's back to Joel Bunce, who looks after the bison in our second round of Ask the Keeper.
Can you stroke them?
We would like to. We can't always. They can be quite aggressive, so we tend to leave them well alone. If they have babies, sometimes we have hand-raised them and we can stroke them and feed them. But normally the adult bison, they don't really like us very much, so they tend to keep their distance and we keep our distance.
So they're not really the most touchy-feely animals then,
No, they're pretty grumpy, so we leave them, you know, to themselves, really.
Why did they have such big eyes?
Because their eyesight is quite poor, and a lot of the time they are quite active at night. So the bigger the eyes, the more light they can draw into their eyes and be able to see in the dark. So they need to have quite a big surface area on their eyes to be able to see.
What do they eat?
Well, in the wild they would mainly eat browse, which is leaves and shoots and branches. Here we do give them browse, but we also give them pellets and hay and a few cabbage, and sometimes as a treat some carrots.
Do they moo like cows?
Not quite. They mainly make a lot of snorts and grunts. It's not the easiest sound to reproduce, but yeah, not quite like cows, although they are a wild cow. But yeah, just mainly lots of huffing and puffing and snorting and grunting.
Well, that's all we've got time for on this Ask the Keeper. Fantastic facts, Joel. Thanks very much.
The 6 African hunting dog pups, led by a trio of male troublemakers, have been running riot, causing no end of problems. 2 days ago they met their new stepdad, ferocious Mzungu, but they saw even him off, turning on him in an unprovoked attack. It's vital that Mzungu successfully pairs up with the pup's mum Tunis, or there'll be no more breeding for this endangered species. Head of section Adrian's got a new plan to save the pack.
He's not going to be able to cope with so many pups. They become young hooligans. They were full of themselves. We'd like them to keep them as a family, but we're not going to be able to manage that. So we've now going to take away the sons and put them on their own next to some other female dogs so that they're not completely out of dog company.
After that, the plan is to try and keep Mum, Stepdad and the 3 girls together.
In our role here as matchmakers and therapists and everything else, we are trying to make sure that these female pups at least get to see their mother raising another litter so that they get all the necessary parenting skills for hopefully when they go on to have litters of their own.
For the badly behaved boys, it's time to leave home.
It's a big step. It's like going off to boarding school or something like that. The only difference will be that they won't be going back home at the end of it. And as we've seen, these dogs are capable of standing up for themselves. That's why we're having to take them out.
Keepers Chris Hales and Pete Thompson have the risky task of separating the boys from the girls.
All right, well, we're going to try and net each of the puppies, because you can't just scruff them. If you try and scruff them when they're running around like that, they will bite you. When you've netted them, they may calm, hopefully they'll calm down. It's easier to control them. We can scruff them, sex them, and take the boys out.
In a perfect world, we'll catch all the males first time, but I doubt very much that's going to happen, so...
Catching them's not going to be easy. Hunting dogs can run 10 times faster than humans.
Get on, puppies. That's it.
Working as a pack, they're running rings around the keepers.
Oh, missed it.
Go on.
It's second time lucky for Pete, but is it a boy?
It's a little boy.
It's a little boy. Excellent. I'm down.
Indeed.
The big net may look scary, but in fact it's by far the safest way to restrain the pups without hurting them or the keepers. Those razor-sharp teeth could cut through flesh in an instant.
Well done. Well done.
Pete successfully bags the 3rd and final boy, and everyone is unscathed.
Fingers intact. No blood.
Hello. Hello, little puppies. Looking very sorry for themselves, aren't you? Hey, you all right, guys? You all right, guys? Hey, you'll be out of here again soon.
A short trip across the park and the pups arrive at their new home, a 2-acre enclosure where they'll be free to cause as much mayhem as they want.
You all right, guys? You okay?
The first pup is quick off the mark, but for number 2, it's all a bit daunting.
You coming out?
He's just a little bit nervous here, so we've taken him away from his mum and from his sisters and put him in this strange enclosure, opened up the door, and of course he doesn't really know what to make of it.
The keepers leave pup number 3 to come out of the box in his own time.
They'll settle down. They may start calling tonight as well, but then after that they'll be fine. They'll just settle down.
The 3rd pup finally joins his brothers. The keepers will be sure to keep a close eye on them over the coming weeks. Meanwhile, back at the enclosure, without the influence of the boisterous brothers, the 3 girls are settling in well with stepdad Mzungu and mum Tunis. It's a huge relief. This new pack will ensure this endangered species has a chance to produce a new generation.
The major thing, as far as the breeding programme goes, is that the pup's mother and this new dog get on fine. So at the end of the day, we'll have a pair of dogs from which we will be able to breed more dogs in the future.
That was 4 weeks ago, and today I've come down to the new enclosure with keeper Rich Barnes to see how those naughty wild dog pups are getting on. Rich, well, there they are. And the first thing I notice is that they are an awful lot bigger than they were 4 weeks ago.
Yep, they're a lot bigger. They're did quite well. Since I come down here, they're eating a fair amount, and yeah, they've settled in quite nicely.
Yeah, I see you've got a hunk of meat there. Is
Yep.
it still safe to go in when they've got
it
so
is,
big?
yeah. We'll have to take in a rake each just in case they start getting a bit lively, but
okay.
We should be fine.
And why a rake?
Well, basically, we have to have some kind of defence when we go in there. Usually, we take in a bin and a rake when we're clearing up.
Yes.
The rake basically acts as your sort of fending off weapon, and the bin usually sort of acts as like a shield, and you stay on the fence line and just use it to fend them off if you have any trouble.
Okay, so just sort of poke them off.
That's basically it, yeah. The rake's ideal as well because at the end you can see it sort of spans out, and when one of the animals is looking at that, they feel a bit more intimidated by the fact it's got a multi-pronged end rather
it's like
than...
a huge claw.
Basically, yeah, so they're like, oh, they get a bit freaked out, they don't know where to kind of, you know, go at it, so we can basically...
Well, let's hope we don't need it, but lead on.
Right. This here.
Hello, boys. Oh, I've seen that straight away. So while you're holding the food, I mean, I suppose that's the most dangerous time, really, in here.
Yeah, I mean, this is basically what they want. They're not interested in us, really.
No.
As soon as we sort of plonk this down on the floor, they should sort of come over, grab hold of it, and then sort of divvy it up. They're getting a lot braver as well of late, so you quite want this, don't you? OK, well, if I give it to you to place down, all you need to do is just go over there and just sort of donk it on the floor and then just step back.
All right, I'll trust you to keep an eye on the floor.
Yeah, that's fine.
Come on, boys.
That's fine. Anywhere there, that's it. The idea is just to try and keep your eyes on them and that as much as you can. Take a step back now and they'll come over and grab hold of it.
What are the noises they're making?
This is the main sort of time they can sort out their hierarchy, who's in charge, and you can quite often tell who's the dominant one by who gets the largest chunk of meat. So I would say this one that's got the biggest bit at the moment is the most dominant, and this one here is the least dominant. And that whining and all that cackling is just little sort of signs to say, you know, this is my bit, get away from me, sort of thing.
Does that mean that this one might end up with nothing?
Well, they're reasonably good at sharing. They all look like they've been eating fine. No one's specifically underweight or whatever, so I think they, they're all getting a fair amount.
Fantastic.
If it does look like they're not going to get the right amount, what we'll do is come back the next day and give another big chunk to make sure everyone gets their
And now that they've settled in, I mean, is there a plan to bring in some females so that they can start their own family?
I'm not entirely sure at the minute, because these three come from the two dogs we've got at the top. They're both unrelated and they've got really good bloodlines, one of which, the mother, Tuna, she's from Tunisia, so the bloodlines are very good, so we'll probably end up sending them off to other zoos and making up a pack at another zoo, so...
They really are tearing that piece of meat to pieces, aren't they, Rich? They've got a formidable reputation as hunters as well in the wild, haven't they?
They have, yeah. I mean, most people think of the big cats, your lions, your tigers. I mean, a pride of lions is pretty formidable, but they don't kill half as enthusiastically and as often as the hunting dogs do, and nearly every chase will end in a kill, and
really?
The way in which they work together is just absolutely awesome. I mean, looking at them as well, they're not built like the lions, so they rely on being in a large pack and just chasing stuff down. I mean, they can chase something for 20 kilometres without, giving up, so sooner or later they'll get what they're going after, sort of thing, yeah.
Well, Rich, it's great to see that they've settled in so well, but they've nearly finished that piece of meat, and as the only thing left to eat in here is me, I think we'll back off a bit.
Yeah, we should back off.
OK.
Well, it's been a busy day indeed, but before we go, we've just come to catch up with Head of Cats, Adrian Harland.
Hi, Adrian.
And Jabir, the impressive male lion, because Adrian is about to give us a very close-up lesson about a lion's teeth.
I think I might let you get on with this one, Alex. This is quite close enough for me, thank you very much.
No, I'm going to get you to touch a lion's teeth.
Yeah. See you, Alex.
Not sure about that.
No, silly. Not Jabir's. We have a skull here.
Wow. That is something. That is, I mean, look at the size. These are the canines, aren't they? They're enormous.
Yes, these are the ones that grasp hold of the prey, bring it down, slice through the neck.
Oh, they are sharp.
These are the incisors at the front, a bit like ours.
Yeah.
But that's about where the similarity ends.
Amazing. Also, because when it closes and they overlap, they must have an amazing grip there if they've caught it with those.
Yes, that would hold a struggling zebra down, and you can imagine that's the size of a domestic horse. But these are the interesting ones. These ones on the side here. These are what make a carnivore a carnivore. These shearing teeth here are the carnassials, and these are the ones that cut the meat off the bones.
See, yeah, they're not flat like our sort of molar teeth that you'd have back there. They're sharp.
Really
so that would act
pointy.
sort of like a pair of scissors, would it?
Yes, that's right. Yes, it slices the meat off and allows it to swallow it.
And then how would a lion's tongue help devouring its prey?
Well, once it's taken all the big bits of meat off, the lion doesn't want to lose any prey, any of its food source, so it would use its very rough tongue to lick the last bits of meat off the bones.
So it has got a big old bite, hasn't it? Look, if it opens right... Hang on a minute. Would it fit? Oh! I'll tell you what, Adrian, I had a healthy respect for lion before, but I think I'll keep an even safer distance now I know all about their teeth.
Well, thanks, Adrian. It's been fantastic learning about the lions. Make sure you tune in to the next Raw for loads more brilliant stories about the animals here at the wildlife parks, including...
We get up close and personal with the Barbary lions, the biggest lions in the world.
The Lemur boys are in for a big shock as they are about to get their bachelor pad invaded by some bossy ladies.
And we have to help out a hungry panda. They're no share bears, as one is taking all the others' food.